Hello, I'm Enzo, and I've played a bunch of Minecraft mod packs throughout my life, but I don't think I've really beaten any of them, and I wanted to change that. This mod pack is called Compact Claustrophobia, and the whole premise is you start out in a 3x3 box, and your whole goal is to make larger and larger boxes and eventually break out of the bedrock prison in the overworld. It's very similar to another mod pack I've played before called Breakout, and I loved playing Breakout, but it is nowhere near as cool or fun and, complicated as Compact Claustrophobia. I didn't really know how long this run was gonna take, so if you can't really tell, I'm kind of speedrunning the early game as much as physically possible. So the first thing you have to do is punch the wall with your bare hands. This gives you dirt, dust, and gravel dust. Gravel's not really useful right now, but the dirt dust lets us make dirt blocks. And with dirt blocks, we can right-click those to scavenge a bunch of different organic items, mostly seeds. It also eventually turns it into farmland, but of course I get the farmland when I don't actually want the farmland. The first thing I was looking for is a bonsai oak sapling. This is pretty much how you make trees in this mod, or get wood, at least for now. If you can't tell, I'm crouching this entire time for two main reasons. One, to grow the trees faster, and the second, you'll probably find out in a little bit. The nice thing is that I can right-click to harvest the trees without having to replant them, one of my favorite modded features in all of Minecraft. Like, that should really just be a vanilla feature at this point. But that gives us some bonsai oak shavings. And it doesn't really matter what type of wood, I just prefer oak, because, it's just everywhere. Acacia and jungle are my favorite though. You'll also see me do this a lot, where I accidentally right-click the personal shrinking device and go back to the overworld. I do not mean to do that, and later on I'll click it too many times and I gotta wait for that loading screen. It's a whole pain. After getting the wood shavings, I of course make a crafting table, as usual, then make this special crafting table that can save items on it. I love the crafting station. And of course, make a wooden pickaxe. The wooden pickaxe allows us to mine at the walls and get new types of resources from these walls. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, we'll be getting all of our resources from these walls. Very similar to Breakout. With the wooden pickaxe, I can now get all sorts of stones. And we mostly want cobblestone. You can also see I got poop. That's the second thing you get from crouching. And yes, I just ate it. You kind of have to do that if you want to get food and health back. But we will have access to actual food items later on. You generally only eat the first piece of poop because it's very important that you save more for later on. Because poop is a very valuable part of this mod pack, especially as you get into the larger and larger machines. It's actually required for the largest machines. So for now, I'm just sitting here, mining as much stone as possible, waiting for my trees to grow. My next goal, obviously, is to get a stone pickaxe. Just like with the wooden pickaxe, this gives us even more options for what we get from the walls. And I can't remember if you can use the different, andesite, diorite, granite, to make a stone pickaxe, but I'll be saving those for later, as they all have very specific uses later on as well. And the wooden shovel saves your hands and hunger from hitting the walls. With that, I can make even more dirt and plant even more trees, and wheat seeds and anything else I really want. A large portion of the early game is farming out all of these different crops, and it is super convenient that I managed to get hemp, because that's also incredibly important right now. And I'm obviously gonna skip a good portion of footage because it's just repetitive doing the same thing I've already explained. But now I've built a wooden crucible and a sieve. Now the sieve, or sieve, however you prefer to pronounce it, isn't extremely useful yet because we don't have enough hemp fiber to make enough string for a mesh, and it's just not useful in general yet. But the crucible will allow us to make water, which, is important for pretty much everything in this mod pack as well. And, water supports life. And of course, while I'm waiting for that, I'm still harvesting all of my crops. And looking at it now, I think I only did this for the achievement of, putting all the materials through the sieve. I don't even think I got anything from it, so it wasn't truly worth it. But after that, I finally decided to craft up a stone pick. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier, but the stone pickaxe, yet again, gives us access to even more materials, including, very important, iron. Just like in vanilla Minecraft, iron has tons of uses, but it seems like it's used for everything when you play a mod pack. There's also some other ores that will be useful later. I have to craft another wooden pickaxe cause I don't have enough cobblestone to make a furnace to smelt the iron. I crafted up a chest to store a bunch of my stuff because inventory management is becoming very difficult, and I started smelting up all the iron I could. This is to get a bucket so I can place some water down and fertilize my crops a bit better. And my next batch of iron obviously is going to be used for a pickaxe to get the next tier of materials from these walls. I don't know how many more times I'm going to say that because you should just get the point eventually. And the iron pickaxe is where things start to get really serious. This is where we get the most important things in this game: uranium and redstone. Well, besides iron, of course. Uranium, iron, and redstone are three of the most important items in the early game because that's what lets us craft the items necessary to make the compact machines, which are these 3x3 and, well, larger rooms eventually. One of my favorite parts about this mod pack is how the early game forces you to very carefully plan how you place everything, because, you have very limited space. There are only 27 blocks in a 3x3, and you have to be standing in at least 2 of them. But you also have to place all your other buildings, you have to have 2 blocks of height to stand anywhere. Yeah, it's a whole mess. My goal currently is to get some clay, which is pretty easy. You just have to hammer down some cobblestone, to gravel, to sand, into finally dust. We place dust in a barrel with some water, and boom, you get clay. You might also notice that I have some uranium ingots. That's necessary to make a block of uranium, which powers the first generator, which I'll be working on in a little bit. And I can't really use it just yet, but here's the decay generator I need to power, well, the next building. And that's why I'm currently making clay, because that's one of the most important parts of what I need to build the compact machines. And this is the part of the early game where things get extremely complicated, because as you can see, my inventory management is horrible. It's completely filled up, and I'm gonna have to use most of this room to build the next machine I need. After farming even more wood for both the furnace and what I'm going to build next, I can finally make what I've been talking about earlier. This is modularium, and this is essential for like 75% of the game. No, 100% because it's even used in the last machines. This stuff lets you make modularium ingots, which, well, I have to build it first, and that's super annoying. This mod pack revolves around making a bunch of different multi-block structures, which is where you have to place, like specific blocks in specific spots, and then, it makes a whole new machine. So, the first machine I need to build is called the small compactor, and as you can see by this little chart I made, yeah, it requires a ton of materials, and even more modularium, and a lot of iron. So yeah, this is going to take a little bit to make, and considering this is the first multi-block structure I need to build in this run, you should be able to tell it's only going to get crazier and crazier from here on. After a while of farming and very careful inventory management, I literally have like no room in my inventory or chest anymore. I can finally start building the small compactor. When building multi-block structures, it is extremely important that you place everything in the exact right spot, or else, it won't work and you'll have to figure out what you misplaced. Thankfully, since this is so small, considering our limited space, it's relatively easy to build. Now that it detects the actual machine, I need to place down a generator, which is this decay generator. Complete disregard the water here, because I forgot this is not the thermoelectric generator. I thought it was for some reason. So yeah, I picked that up a little bit later. The other annoying thing about this is it costs modularium to make the small compact machine walls to make the next small compact machine. You need 4 of these wall blocks to make the next machine. So that's why I got a ton of extra modularium. One of the annoying things about this machine and the decay generator is you have to wait a little bit in between operations, because even though the generator can hold like what 1000 or 2000 RF, and so can the energy input, it doesn't really work if there's not enough energy in the reserves. So I have to let it recharge for a little bit, then I can put 4 more modularium in to make another block. I clearly didn't calculate this far enough because I forgot you needed a machine casing to actually make the next compact machine block, and I almost didn't have enough materials for it. Because you need 4 wood to make the tier 1 compact machine, but I also need something to fuel the furnace. Thankfully though, I managed to get just the right amount in the end. And after crafting the 4th block, I can finally make my second compact machine, giving me yet another 3x3 room. And this is pretty much how the entire mod pack goes. You keep making more rooms that you can put different things in. So I'm gonna start farming again because I need way more wood. Obviously, I'm completely out at this point. A little bit later, I moved my generator over to the new room to place this auto clicker. The auto clicker is exactly what it sounds like. It can click left or right, and it's extremely useful for automating a ton of things in this run. But its main purpose is for automatic mining, which, you know, is pretty important. And later on, I'll build way more of these and they'll save tons of time, but for now, it's not extremely useful, but it does help out at least a little bit. On the topic of mining, the most important part about this mod is crafting specific pickaxes that give you specific dust. Because even though I could use iron pickaxes to get, you know, uranium, gold, redstone, stuff like that, it's not the best method. For example, Electrum gives us redstone when we mine it. The only issue is it has really bad durability, so I'm gonna have to make a ton of these pickaxes. But getting the right pickaxe for the right material is a very important part of this mod pack. Now, there are a ton of pickaxes that do different things, I don't remember all of them, but the most important are, of course, Electrum for redstone and Constantan, I don't know how to say it, for iron. You know, pretty important. We'll get to other important ones a bit later on, once I have them available. And I've been working on a sawmill this whole time. This is a very important machine because this doubles the amount of wood planks we can get from our bonsai saplings, which is, you know, helpful so I don't have to farm nearly as much. But it does require power, so I'll have to place it near my power generator and move one of my auto clickers. To progress with the main missions, I need to make a bunch of annoying materials. The sawmill is to get one of them, sawdust, which you'll actually have way too much, and it'll only be useful like way later on. But the second thing I need is nitrate, which is extremely annoying to get at every single stage of the game, considering I'm gonna need it quite a bit. So to get nitrate, I need sewage and dust. Sewage is, you know, poop placed in water, and you get sewage. It'll be very useful later on as well, just like poop will be. The last material I need to make gunpowder, to make TNT, to progress, is sulfur, which comes from sieving dust, which is super annoying, so as you can probably tell, I skipped all the footage of getting the sulfur. I also got bone meal, which will be useful later, but not very much of it. Now that I have enough gunpowder to make TNT, I'm going to need a lot of iron, like an unholy amount. A while later, and a lot of AFK mining, I've gotten a ton of iron blocks now. And this is very important. Like I said earlier, iron's always going to be important. And right now, I need it to make steel. How do I make steel, you ask? Well, I don't exactly have coal because I don't have logs to turn into coal, or charcoal, shall I say. But in this mod pack, how you get steel at the beginning is through using TNT to blow it up. That's why I made this third room, because my current 2 are being used and I really don't want to break anything inside of them. So I filled up the 3x3 room with as many iron blocks as possible and placed the TNT in the middle. This is to maximize the efficiency because, you know, TNT is super annoying to get, as you might have just seen. Conveniently, I can teleport out of the box before the TNT blows up so I don't die, and this allows me to get steel grit, which is just like any other grit. You know, I smelt it and boom, steel ingots. And this finally lets me get some decent progression going. And now that I have steel, I can make my next generator option, which is the thermoelectric generator, which is slightly better than the decay generator. Not by much, but it's better than the decay generator, which is just horrible. The annoying thing is that I need even more resources to make that, so it's going to take me a little bit to get all the copper I need for all the copper wiring. The only thing that's annoying about the thermoelectric generator is the placement of it. I kind of forgot exactly how it works, but I definitely messed it up quite a few times, so here's what I'm going with. It also uses the same block of uranium I had for the decay generator, but it also requires a coolant, or something colder on one side and something hot on the other side. In this case, water and uranium. You can do crazier combos, but they're not that great in this mod pack, considering there are way better power generation methods later on. But still, that's a very good upgrade to have. Since my wood supply is limited, because farming bonsai trees is super annoying, and I have a better generator, I decided to finally make a redstone furnace. This uses power instead of other fuels to cook things, just like a normal furnace, which is super useful. The only annoying part is getting all of the different little bits for it, especially bricks, because that requires clay, which requires dust, and dust is annoying. It gets better later on, but yeah, early game is a massive struggle. A few more things. The reason I'm crafting gold pickaxes is because these give you all the different stone bits, which I mostly want cobblestone. The nice thing is that they mine super fast, so they're the best way to get stone before your cobblestone generator. Second thing is, I don't actually have the clip of when I made it, but I made the Tinker's Bench or Engineer's Bench, whatever it's called, from Immersive Engineering. And to get the treated wood you need to make it, and the other immersive engineering stuff, it's just a bucket of sewage surrounded by wood blocks. So yeah, nothing special. One of the quests wants you to get aluminum, and it wants you to get 3 to make a pickaxe, because that's what gets you more aluminum, but it's a super annoying and rare drop from sand. But then I was thinking, wait a minute, do I really need 3 for a pickaxe? I only need 1 ingot for the blueprint I need right now, and it literally wasn't useful until the end of the game after that, which is just crazy to me. It literally only has 2 uses in this entire run. Well, okay, multiple, but all the uses were at the end of the run. But yeah, so I only got 1 because it's just not worth it to farm for 3 ingots. The whole reason I need that stupid aluminum ingot is for a blueprint. The other thing I need is paper, which is actually super easy in this mod because it's just sawdust and water, which I really like this recipe. There's just something about using sawdust for an actual purpose this early on that's really nice. But you may ask, why am I making this blueprint? Well, I need this blueprint to make the light to make a garden cloche. Why am I making a garden cloche? I have no clue. I, literally cannot use it right now. It requires 4 blocks of height because you have to put a power source on top. I don't have 4 blocks of height yet. I'm still stuck to my 3x3 rooms. So yeah, I made them, but they're just going to sit around in storage for a little bit until I get my 5x5 room, which is still going to take a little while. So making that blueprint was pretty much useless, but there is one blueprint I actually need to make. And naturally it requires steel, which I have a very limited amount of. This blueprint allows me to make a bunch of different molds, specifically this one for plates. Why do I need plates? This is one of the steps in making the next larger compact machine, the 5x5. To make that, I'm going to need 4 of these small 3x3 machines, and then I have to put those through a metal press, which is going to be annoying to make because that's the second multi-block structure, and I still need to make all the parts for it. So I'll be back in a little bit. Long story short, all of the blocks I need for this multi-block structure are a combination of steel, iron, copper, redstone, stuff like that. So to make this, the piston has to be in the right spot. I think I might be able to use the hammer to move the piston, but this is how the mod pack wants you to do it, and it gives you a free sticky piston. To make the conveyor belts you need leather, which is actually pretty easy. It's just sewage, poop and water, and paper. But you need 3 sewage, so 3 poop per piece of leather. I needed 3 leather, so that's 9 poop. That's a whole mess. Thankfully though, with the combination of biopulp, which is, like wheat or other organic farm materials pulverized, put into a sawmill and sawdust, you can actually duplicate poop in a 1-to-3 ratio. So that's the easiest way to get it for later on. But anyways, now I have my press. But that was the easy part. Now I have to make more compact machines. And you guys know how that grind goes, so it's going to be a lot of iron picks that I'm gonna have to make. After crafting the last tiny compact machine that I needed, I picked up the energy cell that I made, which is a very convenient movable battery. Forget the press plate, and then I can finally start making the, well, compact machines? Yeah, close enough. While I was waiting for the 4 more walls I need to actually make the 5x5 machine, I built a stone barrel and a squeezer. This lets me get lava from blaze powder, which you get blaze powder, obviously, from blaze rods. You get blaze rods from placing steel rods into fire through, flint and steel that I've already gotten. The mod pack only gets more complicated and crazy from here. Now that I have a 5x5 room, that means I can start building more machines. The issue with that is I need more power, which I have very little of right now. So to help deal with that, I made another 3x3 machine, and that's where I'm going to build a bunch of my power generators. I'll be using more thermoelectric generators for now, and it's actually pretty neat because one of the quests even tells you how to do this. So I just made some tunnels, and these are a very important part of this mod pack because these are what let you access compact machines inside of other compact machines. I know it's extremely complicated, but here's a good example. This 3x3 is going to be where I place all of my generators. Inside, I place a tunnel on the bottom, and it'll go to the bottom. As you can see, it says hardened flux duct, and boom, it connects to the flux duct back in the 5x5. I don't have the materials to make a ton of thermoelectric generators right now, but anything I can make is better than what I already have. Now that I have power, I moved a bunch of stuff over from my 3x3 to my 5x5, and I used the second 3x3 I had to place a bunch of auto clickers in for automatic mining. Hoppers are pretty much required if you want to keep any of the resources you mine. It's also useful to make a buffer of pickaxes. So now, if I ever need any materials, I just throw a bunch of pickaxes in here, and I can do something else while all of them mine. I can also finally use that garden cloche I made, which is nice. The garden cloche is like one of my favorite modded buildings ever. It's cheap to make, and it's insanely useful for growing just about anything. So this is gonna greatly help us with crops. And what is a crop? Well, the bonsai oak, or any of the bonsai trees, I guess. So this means, for now, automated wood planks and sawdust, not wooden logs. Those are a long ways off. You guys also might be wondering how I got lapis, because that doesn't come from an iron pickaxe. And well, it comes from the steel pickaxe, which gives us a lot of other good materials, like lithium, boron, thorium, quartz, and of course lapis. It also gives us completely useless flint. Like, you only need a few flint in this run. I've skipped a ton of time because I've just been improving the base and mining tons of iron, redstone, and uranium ore to make modularium. I need to make another 5x5 so that I can build the next multi-block structure that I need, which means I also need more steel. So you guys know what has to happen. TNT and a ton of iron blocks. I have to say though, there is something satisfying about there being an actual purpose for using TNT to blow stuff up. I think that's a super cool mechanic. After finishing the 5x5 room, I can finally start building the crusher. This is yet another multi-block structure that's super annoying to make. If you're wondering how I'm building these, the game wants you to craft the book, but since I don't want to waste poop on leather, I'm literally just looking it up on the wiki. It is the easiest way to do this. I actually remembered how to make the metal press, but yeah, I'm gonna have to look up everything else because these things are just so complicated. It's also extremely important to set your entry point somewhere besides the middle of the crusher. But yes, now that I have that, I can finally start working on the 7x7, which requires 4 5x5s, which each require 4 3x3s. You do the math, that costs 16 3x3s. To make 16 of those, 16 times 4 is 64 of the machine walls, which means we need 256 modularium just for the walls. We still need to make the machine cores and everything like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit. After gathering all the materials, I built 4 small compact machines, and then I threw them into the crusher. This gives me, well, the next part I need to make the next compact machine. And I can finally craft the normal compact machine, which gives me a 7x7 area, which, as the next quest tells you, allows you to grow actual trees. I don't know if you can grow all trees, but I just go with oak, because oak trees can grow pretty much anywhere, as I've learned from experience. And this is extremely important, because now we can start making a ton of things, because we can get charcoal. The most important thing charcoal unlocks is the ability to make graphite dust. We have to make charcoal, then pulverize it, and then put it back in the manufactory, and boom, graphite dust. This lets us start working on nuclear craft items, which is a massive part of this mod pack. That lets me build an alloy furnace, and this is another important building for this mod, but it lets me make ferroboron and then tough alloy, which is another important part of nuclear craft, so I can start making even more things to make more things. And I forgot to show it, but the basic plating lets me make a ton of other things. For example, this nuclear furnace that's insanely fast for the cheap price of uranium, which is awesome, and a cobblestone generator, which you just need a lava bucket, a water bucket, and some of these basic platings. So yeah, they are essential to getting progression done in this mod. Since I have cobblestone automatically generating now, that makes all of its subproducts, sand, gravel, dust, extremely easy to make, which means I can make coke bricks. These are used to make coke ovens, which cook coal and charcoal to make coke coal. And coke charcoal, I think it's also called coke coal, it just has a different texture. It's really weird. Anyways, this is another item that we need for progression. The only issue is it takes, I don't know the exact time, but it is forever for these things to cook inside of these ovens. So it's best to set up as many of these as you possibly can. I ended up making 4 of these. I definitely could have made more and probably should have, but that's the story of this entire run. Should I have made more? Absolutely. Could I? Yes. Did I? No. The next step in this whole coke coal process is to make an industrial squeezer. This is yet again another multi-block structure that I have to build, and it took me a little while to figure out the right place to click for it to all work, but I got it in the end. To power it, I decided to use a compression dynamo, and the main reason for this is because it can use creosote oil, which is a byproduct of coke coal production, and if you don't drain it from the coke furnaces, it will actually clog them up and they won't work anymore. So yeah, it's extremely useful as well, because it's another power source. So listen very carefully, because I'm about to explain the entire progression line of what we're gonna need. So we start out with charcoal, which we get from smelting logs, you know this. But then we have to put it through coke ovens to turn it into coke coal. After that, we have to throw it into the crusher specifically, it won't work in anything else, to get coke dust. Then, once we get enough of this dust, we throw it in to the industrial squeezer. The exact ratio is 8:1, so it's extremely expensive. And then, and only then, do we get hop graphite dust. Alright, hop graphite dust is what we're looking for. This has a bunch of uses and it'll be even better later on, but currently we can only smelt it into hop graphite ingots. What do we do with the ingots? Well, it's funny because TNT is still useful here, even after we have other ways of making steel. Once we have a satisfactory amount of hop graphite ingots, we go into a room that we're not using, light TNT up, and blow them up. Why are we doing this, you ask? Well, this is how we get diamonds. Well, not diamonds even, we get diamond nuggets. Diamonds are still very, very far off. It's not as simple as crafting 9 nuggets into a diamond. Nope, we need a special machine for that way later on. And if you haven't guessed, yep, it's a massive multi-block structure. It's absolutely painful to build. These diamond nuggets are going to be extremely useful. but I can't really use them just yet because I need some other stuff first. A while later, I finally gathered the materials to make 64 compact machines. The smallest ones. That lets me make 4 of the normal compact machines, which I need to make the next one, which is the 9x9. The only issue is I need to melt them, and they take an unholy amount of power in the melter. But I also need speed upgrades, so that means I need power upgrades as well. Yeah, this is gonna take a while, to say the least. After some waiting, I finally had the last bucket of compact fluid that I need. And of course, now I have to wait for it to turn into an actual piece. And once that's finished, I can finally make my large compact machine, which is a 9x9. I know I've said this is where the game gets started before, but this is where the game actually gets started, because I can make a lot of new things now. And the most important of those all is the miniaturization field projectors. Placing 4 of these in the 9x9 room, one in the middle of each wall, gives me a 3x3 grid in the world where I can actually start crafting things. This is awesome because it lets us craft so many more things, and it makes recipes like the compact machine walls extremely efficient. But yeah, this is where I can start to unlock even more things. It's just gonna take a while to get anything, especially this stupid ender pearl. But thankfully, only the first one is difficult. And why is that? Well, you need 26 obsidian to make one of these. That is a lot of squeezing and or waiting for power for your magma crucible. Which, since I'm doing both, it'll take slightly less time, but that's still going to be a while. So I'll just cut back when I'm actually done with it. And here it is, the ender pearl almost done. Once I add the final piece of redstone, boom, it's crafting. Get used to the sound, because you're probably going to hear it a lot in this run. I did move this to another room eventually, but yeah, for a while we'll be hearing this because this is the only setup I have. Most of my base is still in the 7x7 because it's actually quite cozy in here, but I will move it out eventually. But for now, I still need to get the clay to make the porcelain clay to make the crucible. Unlike other mods where you just need the porcelain clay, you also need the ender pearl and a tiny glitched machine. Once you get that, you finally get your unfired crucible, and you get a crucible. In other mod packs, you'd use like fire or lava to heat up the crucible, but thankfully, nuclear craft gives us insane options. So I'm gonna have to make some special buildings. In the meantime, while all of that stuff is processing, I decided to finally make a refined storage system. Cause yeah, these chests are very messy and I'd like to have just a central storage place. It's still very expensive because it also requires diamond nuggets to make a good portion of the things, and porcelain clay, which dust is still super annoying to get. But it's a good thing that I have tons of resources in my stockpile, so I can easily make it. It just takes a bit of work. The most difficult part about making the refined storage system wasn't any of the controller, the disk driver, even the freaking crafting grid. No, it was the storage parts and then the storage drive. This is because the basic 1K parts cost glass to make. Glass is one thing that's always been super annoying to make in this run, and I really should have automated it and sand, because that would have helped me out a ton, but that's just one of the things I should have automated in this run, but I didn't. It definitely would have saved a lot of time. Once I got that set up, I started moving all of the stuff from my chests into it, and now everything is nice and sorted. With that, I can get some more stuff done. My first goal is to deal with lava. So this whole time I've been running this isotope separator, separating, thorium into its separate parts, and this is because I need to make a block of thorium. This is extremely important because thorium, the 230 block, gives the crucible like a 60 times multiplier instead of the 4 that you can normally get from fire, and that is just insane. I mean, it only gets crazier later on. That's going to be super nice. And I'm going to use all of this to automate obsidian, because ender pearls are going to be very important, and I plan to automate them. So while that obsidian is processing, I decided to start working on a fission reactor. This is because I am still running on the 8 thermoelectric generators I've been using this entire time. I really should have upgraded way earlier than this or made even more of those, but you know, I've been a little bit busy with all of this other stuff first. The annoying part is I need a lot of steel, which is still annoying to get, but steel is used for like everything, including ferroboron to make the tough alloy. So this is just one of the many annoying long processes in this run. I decided to build at least part of the reactor because I'm still waiting for a lot more tough ingots to be processed. It's annoying because even these small reactors like this one, it's not the minimum size. I think that's like a 4x4 interior. This is a 3x3 interior. They are very, very expensive. And that's not even considering all the fuel costs that you'll have later on. Once I finished it and activated, it was producing an insane amount of power. A bit too much. So yeah, I kind of cheated here. I completely forgot that I had modified how much power and how little heat this thing produced. So yeah, it's definitely cheating. In my defense, however, power generation like this lets me get through the run way faster. And considering it took 80 hours in the end, I think it's definitely worth it. Plus, I'm not a major fan of how the reactors work in this mod. One of my favorite mods is big reactors and extreme reactors, because the reactors were super simple and easy to make. And the best part, they never overheated or exploded, like the ones in this run. And apparently I actually have it disabled, so you guys will see later on, it doesn't actually explode, it's pretty neat, but the fission one does. So yeah, I kind of hate power generation in this mod pack. So honestly, I'm saying, yeah, you know what, I cheated, but it was a necessary evil to make this run even slightly possible. Now that power isn't a major issue, I can start focusing on other things, like Ender Pearl automation. Well, not completely automated yet, but slightly easier to make Ender Pearls at least. So for this, I use the copy-paste gadget, which lets you copy an area and paste it. Pretty simple. It's extremely useful with the miniaturization field, because that requires a lot of specific block placements and stuff like that. But I need some other stuff before I can really do it. Specifically something to actually charge the copy-paste gadget. Another nice thing about automating obsidian is now that I have the lava capacity, it's easy to make stuff like netherrack, for example, which I need to make nether bricks to make blast bricks. These will also be useful later, but they can be used to make steel a bit easier. But I honestly think that's bait, because steel this way still takes insanely long. I don't really think it's worth it for the fuel cost, which I use charcoal, because there's no way in hell I'm gonna waste any of my precious coke coal. Back to Ender Pearls, I first need to build the thing I had earlier, this 3x3 obsidian with one block of redstone in the middle, figure out how to use the copy paste tool again, because it's been so long since I've done this, and here's what I end up with. Now, you might be wondering why I placed dirt right there. That's just a generic block. You can use anything that you won't have in your inventory, and that's to place a piece of redstone dust. That will then make contact with the obsidian, and boom, that's the catalyst for your Ender Pearl. It's a little bit annoying when recipes need a catalyst like that, but thankfully, in the case of redstone at least, it's possible just to place it in the copy-paste thing as well. That's pretty awesome. Even though I have to still wait for the thing to build, I just have to right-click and boom, it's done. Except for when the redstone doesn't place, but I can fix that later on. But here's the best part about the miniaturization field. Remember how annoying the compact block walls are to make? Well, it just costs a block of iron and 2 redstone. That's it. You get 16 per block of iron, making this like one of the best things you can make in this mod pack. Unfortunately, you still need a ton of these to build compact machines, but this is insanely efficient, especially compared to the previous recipe. Speaking of compact machines, this provides me a way better method of building them. It's also, well, way more efficient than having to make like 64 for what, a 7 or a 9x9? Yeah, this way I can make 7x7s with blocks of gold, and then with a few of those 7x7s, I can make a 9x9. This is just awesome. So much easier, and not to mention quicker than before. I've also been doing a ton of smaller things in the meantime, like this new mining setup, for example, that features a vacuum? I don't know, close enough. And making a ton of bioblend to get poop, to get leather, to make a book, to make this tome of knowledge, which lets me store XP. I need to store XP so I can make cryolithium from snowballs, which I needed the ice machine for, I don't remember the name of. Yeah, you get the point. Tons of stuff I've been doing in the background, but those are just the highlights. Did I mention that entire time I've been waiting for that stupid blast furnace to process the steel I needed? For what, you ask? Well, the next multi-block structure I need, called the arc furnace. For that, I need a ton of steel-related items and these blast furnace bricks. That's why I made them in the first place. Definitely wouldn't have made the steel from the blast furnace otherwise, trust me. And I sped up the entire clip of me building said blast furnace. Not because it took a while, it's just because it was a lot of peeking over at the wiki to make sure I was placing everything right. It is a slightly complicated build. Part of me does think it's actually neat how you can build multi-block structures like this, even though they're annoying to make. The arc furnace is probably one of my favorite buildings in this mod pack because it has so many uses and it's just cool to look at. The only downsides are you have to make the graphite electrodes and replace them manually. And the big issue with those is the ones you make here come at half durability. Like, they literally come half broken, and that's all you can do for now. And technically in this mod pack, you're not even supposed to get the 100 efficiency ones, but I will get those later on. The other main issue with this is the pure amount of power this thing draws. As you can see, these hardened flux ducts are nowhere near enough to supply this arc furnace. I'm gonna have to upgrade for sure, and that is going to be a major issue as the run goes on. Power is always an issue in these modded runs. You guys also might be wondering why I put sawdust in there at the beginning, and that's to get charcoal. The sawdust bricks give you charcoal when you put them in the arc furnace. That is awesome, and this is part of my master plan for this run. This skips quite a few steps in the very annoying tree farming process, and now I can use the garden cloches to grow bonsai oak trees, and then with the sawmill and pulverize them, I can get sawdust out of these bonsai oak cuttings. Do you see the plan here? Put them in a sequential fabricator, and boom, automatic charcoal, which also means coke coal, eventually. And to help with my power problem, I wanted to replace all these hardened flux ducts with singulum flux ducts, which cost a ton of molten redstone. And I'm extremely thankful for whatever mod allows me to shift right click, pick up, and move blocks. It is like the most useful mod ever. Besides coke coal to get the hop graphite, this setup is extremely useful to automate steel, which is another thing I'm constantly out of. So it has many uses, and I'll be using it to make graphite automatically later on, which is awesome. The main reason I needed all this steel is so I could make ferroboron for tough alloy. This is a problem I have all throughout the run. Why do I need this tough alloy, you ask? Well, I need to make a lot more nuclear craft machines, because of what I need to make next for the main quest line. Once you get to this point, you'll understand my struggle. Cubic boron nitrate is one of the most annoying things to make in this entire run, because there are like 1 trillion processes to it. And honestly, it's not even that difficult to make, it's just you need a bunch of different machines to do it. And the worst part is, you need speed and energy upgrades for all of those, which is a lot of iron, redstone, lapis isn't bad, but then you also need gold, crushed obsidian, crushed quartz. It's just super expensive to make everything. Not to mention all the tanks I need to store all the different types of fluids for everything, because there are a ton of liquids and then byproducts created by this process. Well, I had the rest of this part all done, you know, how I actually made the cubic boron nitrate, but it seems to be all corrupted now. And that means I have to revoice this part, but I don't want to do all of it because I'm running out of time. This is only going to be part 1 out of a part 2, maybe even 3-part video. This was a massive run, and it took over 80 hours. Well, actually just under 80 hours, my bad. And there was around 30 hours of footage. So thank you very much for watching if you've gotten this far, and especially thank you to all of my channel members. I'm hoping to get part 2 out next week on Saturday as well. Trust me, I've been putting all of my free time into this. It's just a behemoth of a video. Yet again, thank you, and this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming signing out.